Now let's change these object layer overrides one more time because having a completely rectangular image will help us understand this next topic of frame fitting. So make sure the image is still selected. Go up to the Object menu and choose Object Layer Options. And go ahead and turn the background layer back on. Here you can see that that gives us a completely rectangular image. And go ahead and click OK. So we want to resize this image so it fills up the entire bottom area of this menu. That means not just going to the black lines, which is the trim side, but all the way out to these red lines so that we use the full 1/8 inch bleed. So with that in mind, make sure that the selection tool is active, and I'm just going to click with no keyboard modifiers pressed the bottom left corner edge of this frame, and I'm going to pull that out to the bleed line. And I'm going to do the same thing up here and stretch this up just like that so it's underneath the text. We don't need it overlapping. And I might scroll down just a little bit to make sure we're seeing all of that. Now the challenge here is to fit the content to the frame, and there are several ways to achieve that here with these frame fitting options in the control panel. Remember that you can also access these same commands in the Object Fitting menu as well as the Context menu. So just a right click or a control click on a single button Macintosh mouse. I'm a very visual person, so instead of using these commands here, I'm going to rely on the icons. So follow with me here through these 5 options. The first one is Fit Content to Frame. Let's go ahead and click that and see what we get. So a single click fits the content to frame, but if you can tell here, we're actually distorting the image. That's not what we wanted. This has no sense of proportion. So let's go ahead and undo that, Command Z or Control Z. The next option here is Fit Content Proportionally. That sounds like a pretty good option. Let's try that one. So you can see that it fit the frame width, it kept the proportions of the image, which is important, so it's not distorted. However, we do have a lot of dead space down here at the bottom. So corresponding to the Fit Content Proportionally option, we might choose the Center Content option. So just a single click there, and it will center the content in the frame, both in the up and down and the side-to-side axis. Now at this point, the content is centered in the frame, but we still have some extra here at the top and at the bottom. So to tidy that up, our fourth option is Fit Frame to Content. That will stretch or shrink the frame to match the content. And that's just a single click away. And now you can see here that the frame matches the content in the image perfectly. They're one and the same. They have the same size, the same position. Now, just to let you understand what this last option is, that is Fill Frame Proportionally, I'm going to undo 3 times. That'll undo the last 3 steps we took and actually show you how you might get away by doing this with a single click. So press Command Z on Mac or Control Z on Windows 1, 2, 3 times. That just steps us back to where we had this small image in the middle of this big frame. Now you remember when we chose to fit content proportionally, we had all this leftover space. We might not want that. So undo that, Command Z on the Mac, Control Z on Windows, and this time choose Fill Frame Proportionally. This is the one that I use most often, and I think it's the most commonly used frame fitting command. One click, it will fill the frame so we don't have any stray areas, but notice that it does trim this off. The reason it's trimming it off is we told it to fill the entire frame and constrain proportion. So it's not distorted. If we'd want to get a slightly better crop here, again, we can click and hold using that patient user mode, slide that over, and drop it in just where we want. Okay, so just a few more frame fitting tips and techniques. I'm going to Command Z or Control Z on Windows just a couple of times until I get back to this mode where I have this tiny image inside this large frame. So InDesign CS3 has added a couple shortcuts for frame fitting that I think you'll really like. If you want to fit a frame to the content on a single axis, in this case just the vertical axis, you can double click any one of these frame handles. So on the left and right side we have a handle, and the top and the bottom we have a handle here. So just double click that handle and it will fit that content to the frame. If we want to get this side, I'll double click that one as well. If you want to fit all 4 sides at once, just double click one of the corner handles and all 4 sides instantly snap to the content. Now all the examples we've looked at in terms of frame fitting included placing the content first and then fitting it to a frame. However, new in InDesign CS3 is the ability to create the frame and its fitting options first, and then place the content in that frame. Let me show you an example. With the selection tool active, go ahead and grab that image and just press the delete key. We'll delete that content, and we're going to use the frame tool to create a new frame just where we want here at the bottom. So draw out a rectangle, make sure you use all of the bleed, bottom, left, and right. Come up here to the object menu, and then in the object menu we'll go down to fitting, frame fitting options. This will set the frame fitting options before we place the content. So here at the bottom, this is the one we want to pay attention to. We are going to fill frame proportionally. Go ahead and choose that option. If your images happen to have, for example, a stroke or a key line around them that you would want to crop off on all of those images, you can include a crop amount here in the top. You can also include a reference point for alignment, so when this image fits, it's going to fit from the top left corner. And I'll go ahead and click OK. Now we'll choose File, Place, navigate back to Lesson 1 of Part 2 of your project files, look inside the Place folder, and go ahead and grab the salad.psd file one more time. Go ahead, click Open, and place it inside of that frame, and it fits and fills perfectly the first time without having to work on it later.